It's Gail with Everything Nash here with Richard Sterban of the Oak Ridge Boys. Such a pleasure to talk to you. How are you today, sir?
Well, Gail, it's my pleasure to be able to talk to you and to all your viewers out there, and I'm doing just fine. So I'm looking forward to it. I certainly am.
Okay, we have lots to talk about. I'm going to start with, I'm going to be there next year, the Country Music Cruise, which I know you guys have done in the past a lot. Why is this cruise, why do you want to keep doing this year after year?
Well, especially the time of the year the cruise is being held is in the winter when it's really cold everywhere else. And to get down on the Caribbean, the beautiful water, the warm weather, and one of the things that I think we like about it as much as anything, we get a chance to work with some of our fellow artists that we don't see very often, and we get to hang out on the same boat and just have fun. So it's really a great, and I would encourage people, if you're as a fan, if you have not ever taken the country music cruise, this is something that I would highly, highly recommend. It's a great thing. It's a great way to spend a vacation. Beautiful, beautiful ocean, beautiful warm weather, and you get a chance to hang out with some of your favorite country artists, especially this year. We have a very impressive list of artists that are going to be on the cruise this year, and I happen to have the list of them right here in front of me. Randy Owen, Clay Walker, Mark Chestnut, Neil McCoy, asleep at the wheel. Ray Benson, by the way, has a voice almost as deep as mine. And Johnny Lee, a good friend, Jimmy Fortune, a very impressive list. So we plan to have a great time. I can speak for all the Oak Ridge Boys, tell you we are looking forward to it very much so. We plan to have a great time. We're going to do our best to make it a great time. Along with 2 Oak Ridge Boys shows, we also, we're members of the Grand Ole Opry. The Grand Ole Opry shows on the boat as well, and we'll be a part of those. There's a gospel show that we'll be a part of. So we're excited about all of that, and we're looking forward to it, to say the least.
Sold. I'm going to be there. If I wasn't going, I would go now. I got to talk to Joe last year, and he said one of his favorite things is the food.
There's no question. One, if you leave that boat hungry, it is your fault. The food is great. They have a 24-hour-a-day buffet up there that you can eat all day long if that's what you choose to do. Some gourmet restaurants. The food is outstanding. No question about it.
And like you said, I think people don't realize that haven't been on it, but they get to actually hang out with you. Like you are there. You're not hiding. All the artists are on the boat hanging out.
Well, you're right. In some ways, we're kind of captive. we really can't get off the boat. So, you can hang out with any one of us that you want to. We'll run into you on the elevator, for example, in the buffet line. We have meet and greets. There's autograph sessions. There will be plenty of opportunities for you to hang out with your favorite country music artist, get to know them just a little bit. So it's a great time. And once again, if you've never been there, I would encourage you to make plans to go on the country music cruise. It is an experience I guarantee you will not forget.
I love it. Okay, before we get to you, I want to talk real quickly about Joe. We just referenced him. How is he doing?
He's doing well. In fact, I plan to call him here after we finish this. I haven't talked to him in a few days, but he's making progress. He's doing well. And I think it's just a matter of time. He'll be back, performing with us, and that's the way it should be. Joe Bonds will sing a tenor with the Oak Ridge Boys, and he will be back and hopefully as good as new.
We don't have a date when he'll be back yet. Do we know?
Pardon?
We don't know the date that he'll be able to come back and join you guys yet?
We are playing a date this weekend on Sunday, which I believe is the 3rd of July, and Joe is going to be there. He's going to make an appearance. He may not be able to do the whole show yet, but he plans to be there, and so we're excited about that.
Awesome. Okay, let's talk about you. First of all, I did a deep dive into you the other day. You are almost 80. How is that possible?
How is that comfortable? Is that what you asked me?
How is that possible? I can't even, you seem so young to me.
Well, thank you so much. You know, I think when you keep active like the Oak Ridge Boys do, I think that helps keep you young. Many people have asked us quite often, when do you guys plan to retire? And the answer to that question is we do not plan to retire. I think as long as the good Lord above keeps blessing the four of us with good health, we're going to keep doing this because it's what we love doing. There's no question about it. And during the I think we got a taste of what it's like not to be able to do what it is that we love doing during the pandemic. And when that was taken away from us, we were not very happy. And I think we realized how much we miss getting on stage, taking our music live to our fans and to our audiences. We miss that and yes, we miss the performance part of it, but I think what we miss more than that even is the feedback that we get from our fans. That is something that we live for. We miss that. Now we're back doing it again. We're experiencing that feeling of people coming out and singing the Oak Ridge Boys. And I think people want to get out. I think people are ready to hear live music again, because live music is very, very healing in nature. It really is. And we're so glad to be able to do our thing that we love doing. And once again, I think the good Lord above will tell us when it's time to retire. But I don't think that we are there yet. We really are not.
I love it. Does it feel like it's been almost 50 years since you've been with the Oak Ridge Boys?
Well, that is hard to believe. This October, it will be 50 years for me. And it's amazing. Sometimes you wonder, you look back over your life and you wonder, where has all the time gone? But it was kind of an interesting thing. In 1972, I was actually singing in a group called J.D. Sumner and the Stamps Quartet. And I was actually singing with the king of rock and roll, the biggest star in the world back then, Elvis. And that was a very special time. It really was. I have some great memories of the times I spent with Elvis, and I got to know him just a little bit. And now that many years have passed, and I look back on that, I'm so glad I was able to experience that. But while I was with Elvis, apparently on top of the world, one day I got a phone call from William Lee Golden of the Oak Ridge Boys. He's the guy in our group, as you probably know, with the long beard. He's probably the most recognizable member of the Oak Ridge Boys. Back then, he did not have that long beard. He was Mr. GQ back then. But he called me and he said the bass singer in the Oak Ridge Boys was leaving, and the Oak Ridge Boys wanted to know if I would be interested in taking the job. So here I was, apparently on top of the world, singing with Elvis, but I had to make a decision, like, what do I do? And I have to admit, at the same time, I was a big fan of the Oak Ridge Boys. I loved the music that they were making, and, I collected their records, and I felt like the group had a great deal of potential, and I really wanted to be a part of it. So I made that decision to leave Elvis and to join the Oak Ridge Boys back in 1972. And it's hard to believe, that 50 years have passed. Over the last 50 years, so many great things have not just happened to me personally, but all four of the Oak Ridge Boys. We've been very fortunate. We've been very blessed. We've had such a great career. And as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, the good thing about it, it's not over yet. We still have plans for the future, and we plan to go in the studio next year and work on a new project with Dave Cobb producing. So we're excited about that as well.
Do you ever sit and wonder how your life would be different if you had stayed with Elvis instead?
Well, my career would not have been as long, that's for sure. I think my timing was pretty good because, unfortunately, for all of us, we lost the greatest entertainer of all time in Elvis just a few years after I left. So I think my timing was pretty good, and I followed my heart on that decision. I really believed I was doing the right thing. A lot of people question that decision. How could you leave Elvis and join the Oak Ridge Boys? But I really believed I was doing the right thing. And now that I look back on the last 50 years, I think I made a very, very good decision back then.
Did you have any idea when you recorded Elvira that song would become as impactful as it was all these years later? I mean, that's how I was telling my kids who you are, the guy who does giddy up, boom up. Did you have any idea that song would be so impactful?
Well, I think the first time we all heard Elvira, we felt like it was a special song. I remember sitting in Ron Chancey's office. Ron Chancey was our producer back then. He produced most of the hits on the Oak Ridge Boys. And I remember we were sitting in his office listening to demos. And he said, fellas, I've got something here I want to play for you guys. And he played Dallas Frazier's version of Elvira. And we all sat up and looked at each other and went, wow, this may be the song we've been looking for. Some of the other guys had heard this. It's the first time I'd ever heard it. Some of the other guys were familiar with Dallas Frazier's version, so they'd heard it before. But we all agreed immediately that this could be the song that we have been looking for. I remember the day we recorded this song. It felt like it was a hit. It felt like it was something very, very special. All the musicians were smiling. Everyone was having fun. Elvira is that kind of a song. You can't listen to Elvira or sing Elvira without wanting to smile and have a good time. It's that kind of a song. So Elvira was a special song. We felt very good about it after we recorded it the day of the session. But I still don't think we realized how special the song was going to be until the very first time we performed the song in person. Of all places, we were in Spokane, Washington, at the Opera House. Not the Opry House, the Opera House. There's a difference. but right in the middle of our show, we decided to try out some new songs from our new up-and-coming album, and Elvira was one of those songs. And when we recorded Elvira, or performed Elvira, right in the middle of that show, people just went crazy. People stood up, they were cheering, dancing. You could tell it had a special feeling to it. And after the song was over, the applause would not die down. It kept going on and on and on. We had to encore the song 3 times right in the middle of the show. Then we added it at the end of the show and had to encore it there again. The rest of that West Coast trip that we were on, we got a very similar reaction. So we realized then that, we do have something special on our hands. We called our record label, said, we got to get this thing out. We got a monster on our hands. And sure enough, in 1981, it was one of the biggest records of the year. And it's really, to this very day, our signature song. And even now, over 40 years later, we just hit the intro of that song in our shows. People stand up, they start dancing, they start singing along, they start smiling. And one of the most fun things for me personally is when I get to the giddy up, oom papa, mau part, to look out in the audience and watch all the men trying to sing along with me. That's a lot of fun.
Because not many men can sing as low as you can, I bet.
Well, that's true. Yeah. I jokingly tell people, people quite often comment on my voice, and I jokingly tell people, if it wasn't for this voice, I would have to get a real job. I would have to work for a living. So I'm thankful to the good Lord above that he blessed me with his voice.
You mentioned the Grand Ole Opry. You guys are one of not a whole lot of artists that are members of the Grand Ole Opry, still living, members of the Grand Ole Opry and the Country Music Hall of Fame. Can you just speak a little bit to the significance of that?
Well, it's very special. If you sing country music for a living, you really have 2 goals. More than that. I wouldn't just want to narrow it down to just 2 goals, but there's 2 things that you live for. Becoming members of the Grand Ole Opry, which we did in 2011. And then just a few years later, we had the privilege, the ultimate honor of being inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. I spent some time, earlier in the interview talking about my time with Elvis. And, I never dreamed years ago when I was a young man in my 20s singing on stage with Elvis that someday I would be in the same Hall of Fame with him. But here I am now, not just me, the 4 Oak Ridge Boys. If you go into the Rotunda here in Nashville, which is a very special place, and you walk into that Hall of Fame and you look, you'll see the 4 faces of the Oak Ridge Boys in bronze on the wall. Then you look down the wall a little ways, you will see Elvis. You will see Johnny Cash. You will see Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers. The list goes on and on and on. And for the Oak Ridge Boys to be of that part of that family, it's so special, it's beyond words. And the same thing is true when it comes to the Grand Ole Opry. When we walk into that building, we see our name on the side, on the wall there, with all the other great artists. The fact that we are a part of that family is very, very special. No question about it.
I was there when you were inducted to the Hall of Fame, and I always cry at those inductions every time because it's just so special.
There's no question about it, and it's something to live for. If you do what we do for a living, being inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame is really the highest honor that you can receive. And it's even after it's been several years since it has happened, but I still have a difficult time finding just the right words to describe how special it is, because it is very special.
Okay, I have to let you go. I could literally talk to you all day. But last question. You mentioned earlier you guys are going into the studio next year. Tell us a little bit about what's going to happen with your next album.
Well, we have been produced now for the last 4 projects by Dave Cobb. If that name rings a bell, Dave Cobb is one of the hottest guys here in Nashville. And we are honored, that he is willing to produce the Oak Ridge Boys. He refers to us as his crazy uncles. We have a great relationship with him, and everything at this point now is in the talking stages. We probably realistically will not be able to get back into the studio till next spring. So we have some time to work on it. I do not have a title that I can give you. I do not even have a list of songs yet, other than the fact that we know our record label is ready for us to do another project, and Dave Cobb is ready to work with us again. So we definitely have plans to go in the studio, and if we're working with Dave Cobb, it's going to be a very special project.
Awesome. So good to talk to you. Thank you so much. And I hope I see you before the cruise. If not, I'll see you on the cruise, and I'm going to get a big old Mr. Sterban hug.
Okay, Gail, we may be able to walk through the buffet line together. Yes. I need some of that good.
I'll count on it. Thank you so much, sir. Have a wonderful day.